Today I'm taking a look at the VEVOR welder. So it does come with a chipping hammer with a wire brush. Comes with a kilogram of 1mm wire, and that is fully sealed. So that is plenty to get started. That is interesting. So it came with what look like sunglasses with polymer lenses for welding on it. I do not recommend using something like this just because you want to make sure that you're covering your face. If you weld long enough, you will give yourself sunburns, and that could lead to bad things. But the fact is, we do got something right here that we can get started with. We got our manual. We got our working clamp. This is a twist style lock. One of the things I really like to see has a copper braid in it. So that way, if this side is making a better connection this side, you don't have to worry about this pin in order to make the connection to this wire. So very nice to see that. So it's interesting, we actually got some TIG welding components in here. So we got a number 5 and a number 6 cup. So it is 6/16 of an inch and 5/16 of an inch. Yeah, look at that. We actually got a TIG torch. And it looks like we got a knob for our gas control. Here's our stinger for stick welding. It has a nice strong clamp on it, and we can see that star pattern in there for holding the rods at different angles. Wow, this is the most impressive little budget welder I've seen. We have a MIG gun, we have a stick welder, and we have a TIG welder. Most of the time they just come with something like this, but they say you can also attach something like this, but they don't include it. This actually includes all three styles. So we got our positive or negative, they are labeled, they're easy to see, and we got voltage, and we got amps. I also like that they actually put a little needle there on it. Most of the time they just have a line, if that. So this is gonna make it very easy to see exactly where you're at. And up here we got our indicators on the display, and we got a button to select our process. On the back we got our on-off switch that does have a rubber membrane on it, and we have active cooling. Now you will notice that there is no inlet for gas, so that means this is going to be a flux core welder for the MIG welder. So that means this wire is going to be flux core wire, which means you do not need MIG gas for it, but it does mean that it's going to be producing slag, so you will need to chip that slag off whenever you're done with the welds. Personally, I prefer that over having a MIG welder just because you don't have to get a big tank of gas. You can also work out in the wind. Flux core welders are excellent for DIYers. For our wheel, we got a 0.8 and we got a 1.0. So that is the thickness of the wire that we're going to be putting in there. We're going to be using 1.0 wire, so we want that facing out. This wire is going to be fed from the bottom, so we want to make sure that we have the wire line so it's going to be going counterclockwise. So we're just going to push down on this wheel, turn it to the left, and then we can pull that off with the spring and with the cap. And we can drop our wire on, cap back on, and clamp that spring back on. For this part, it's always a good idea to have some needle nose pliers. Now I want to hold the wheel to make sure that it doesn't spin. Even though this clamp should hold it in place, we want to make sure that we do not unspring this coil. I'm going to cut off the excess on there because we do not want to have any bends as we're trying to string this through. And then we just start running that in. And then we just want to feed the wire into that hole. When we got some in, we can drop this bearing back on and put the clamp back on. Now you can tighten this up and loosen it. There's a spring on here that's going to pretty much set it. If you want to, you can make it a little tighter, but if you make it too tight, it's not going to feed very well. I'm going to take off the nozzle. It's a little bit counterintuitive. You're actually going to turn this clockwise to get it off. And then we want to take off the tip. So that's just going to allow us to get more room to get that wire through. Now we got it plugged in and turned on. I'm going to set the process to MIG. I want the wire as straight as I can get it. Then I'm going to press and hold the trigger, and I just want to watch inside of here to make sure that nothing gets bound up. So we got the wire out. I'm going to shut it off. It looks like this tip is not going to be large enough for it. So the wire is a 1.0, this is a 0.8 tip. So we got a couple options. We could get a smaller size wire, get a larger size tip, or we could drill that tip out. For the TIG welder, on the bottom, there is a piece of tubing coming out, and this is right around 5/16. So to run the TIG function, you do need pure argon gas. You're going to have a tank of argon, and you're going to have a regulator that's capable of connecting to 5/16 tubing. Now I do have some argon. I do not have the regulator to connect to that. We got two collets. These are both 1/16, so it's going to hold 1/16 tungsten. That will thread into the torch, and we throw our back onto that, and then we screw our cup on the front. You will need a piece of 1/16 tungsten, but that will be our TIG torch. So I got 1/8 inch plate. I'm going to use 60 amps. So that is not bad at all. I did have a couple of starts and stops in there. That is mostly just due to technique. That is not due to the machine, but that puts out a beautiful bead. So overall, that is a pretty awesome welder. I do wish it came with the correct tip for the MIG gun. Not really something I'm going to be able to solve right now, but it is going to be something that, I mean, tips, they don't really cost that much. I can just get one to replace it, and then I'll have that thing going. And the fact that it comes with a TIG torch, that's really surprising to me. I have never seen a bargain welder like this. It comes with the MIG, the arc, and the TIG. And the fact of the matter is that can glue metal together. So that, overall, is an awesome welder.